Okay, team, so we're going to go through some of the pricing tool a little bit closer and wanted to kind of chat on incentive usage on the new side. There seems to be some questions on that, so I just want to try to clear some stuff up. So first of all, when we go into Fastbook pricing tool, note that some stores will not have this panel right here. It's part of the analytics package. They will have the additional information down here, but they won't have this graph screen view. So, and that's kind of where the magic starts with the tool itself. You'll notice also that this store in particular has not booked out X amount of units. So when I look at their profile, it looks like, well, they don't have any cars 0 to 30 days. What happens is a filter on the left hand side takes out these not booked cars when I'm looking at the comp view. So right away, this store, I can tell they're not using market-based pricing when I'm looking at their store, or at least not diving into it a lot. And then as we look at the graph, there's a couple different ways to take a look at this. We've got units cost, obviously average cost of my units, market. This is one of the key factors that everybody's looking at. What we want to see is as the car ages, we continue to decrease that market percentage price. And then there's a cost as a percent of market. So that's what I own the car for based as a percent of the market value. So from there, a lot of stores will come in and I can toggle this view multiple different ways. And this is kind of where our tool is different and where it can really get complex. But if I was a store and I only use Kelley Blue Book, well, then I could come up here and say, okay, compare my used cars to the Kelley Blue Book listing price. And I've got two choices here. I can use internet or retail. Most of this tool is built around an internet price, but I could flip it over to retail and use that. It doesn't show me the price history change though on retail pricing. It's only for internet. So now if I'm a store or a sales manager, I only work off Kelley Blue Book. I pull this up, I can see where I'm at as a percent of book, percent of cost to book, and then I can build out my pricing from there. I can also go to NADA retail. I could look at that and it would adjust numbers, or I could go to Black Book retail. So whatever book I'm using as a used car manager, I can use that, whether it's the retail book, whether it's Kelley NADA Black Book, just by simply toggling that. So for the purpose of this, I'll just go back to this comp view retail. Know down here, I've got all my different filters. There seems to be some confusion on this. I can do all the way down, say if I wanted to look at a 17, or if I knew I had some, I haven't looked at this inventory, but let's say GMC and multiple inventory. Let's do Chrysler or Ram. Let's try Ram. Ram, I can do different models here. So let's say 1500, and then I can break out the trim. Now we cannot get all the way down on this tool to a package code. So like Ram, like Ford's really infamous on it. Ford F-150, they'll do an XLT with a 302A package. From this screen, I cannot get all the way deep and into that data that deep. If a store wants to do that, sometimes we can come up to the incentive tool button right here, and then we can work through the incentives here. You'll notice that I've got 64 units that need to be assigned an incentive on this particular account. So what that's saying is that it does not understand what unit we have here, and we need some guidance. So the first thing to do if you're looking at a store and having issues, go to that incentive tab. 64 assigned incentives. So let's just do a couple here. So we're going to click on this Ram Lone Star. Okay, it's going to already figure out what it was. Easy. All I had to do is click it open, click save. Now a lot of this will be set up on the back end if it's set up correctly, where I'll just say in the account settings, I can say Chrome data enhancement and run it on all vehicles. In this case, it's just not able to determine what units that really is. So we'll keep kind of working through this a little bit. And then down below, you'll see here that it's asking to assign what type of fuel the engine has. So in this case, the incentive group belongs to diesel. So I'm going to choose that, or Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited gasoline. So I've got to go through and select which options these are. We can work on making the system a little bit smarter, but currently it doesn't do, especially on the trucks, it still has a little bit of issue, needs some time to go through that. So here's an RN, see whether it's a Scat Pack or Scat Pack Shaker. I don't know, it's not my account, so I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly. It's a Laramie diesel, so get this cleaned up. Once those do come in, you can see the incentive tab once. I don't know why it's not populating, probably because I'm a demo account, but it would show the Ram Jeep incentives broke out by different lines with different incentive packages on there. So I might have Ram diesel, for instance, with a different Ram half-ton diesel versus a Ram half-ton Hemi with a different incentive on it. So it'd be broken out here. And then I can go in and price those Ram diesels or the Ram Hemis as I wanted to. Back over to the pricing tool. Once I decide, okay, I'm going to switch my thinking over to new, I simply come up here and go to new. And then I usually want to change this to the vehicle MSRP, and most stores that we're working with, I'm going to argue with, are going to price this way, especially with map pricing in effect for most stores right now. Like, you can't price below incentive, you can't price below $200 over invoice, excuse me. So everything pretty much in the Toyota world, and a lot of the import brands are based upon pricing set to invoice. So that's the first question when I ask stores, how are you pricing your cars? Well, if they're saying, well, I just go in and I do $200 over invoice on every single Ram half ton, then we can do that. So so I'm comparing my new vehicle MSRP to the internet price. Really, this data doesn't do me a whole lot of good in the new car tool. I don't really pay attention to it, and same with the market velocity. If a store wants that data and information, it typically the OEM provides it for them, and it's going to give them better data anyways than what the market sees. You know, the OEM knows what's being built. They know what's being reported as sold. Um, Toyota had Ford's got a fast turn report. I know Chevrolet had something similar. Ram did. Toyota, we were always looking at inventory reports from the OEM. So I wouldn't focus a lot on this market velocity as far as trying to determine out what it's doing in the market. Typically, the OEM has that data and has the best data, in my opinion. So now if we decide, we come down here and say we need to price our Ram 1500s Bighorns, and I need to price them at a certain number, we can come to the batch price tool wand here, and we can simply say, okay, set our internet price to invoice, and I'm going to add either percent, but most people are just going to say $200, and I'm going to preview the change. And it allows me to see what it's going to change that to versus the MS price. So here is our invoice, 46,286 is going to add $200 to it. And then there you can see the vehicle MSRP. And then if there's any cash incentive, now the count I'm looking at, there's not showing any cash incentive because none of the cars are decoded, but there is a cash incentive and it would be displayed right there. So then I could see the total discount on the units. Once I'm happy with that, I could say, okay, that looks good. Or I could say, you know what, this is the dealer's demo. Don't change that one and uncheck it, and it's going to revert back to where it was. Okay, so keep that in mind. If I just said, don't change that. Okay, so then simply save prices, and it's going to then save the price. Now, when it saves that price, anytime I do a price change manually in here, it's going to be indicated by a yellow. That means something manually overrode that price, and now it's different than what it was expecting. So if you get a phone call on, hey, somebody changed something, that's what the yellow is there to indicate. You've also got this price change indication. So we just changed the price on this one, but for this one, it's been 96 days since the last price change. All these settings in the back end can be set up to how you want or how the store is used to looking at it. So if you go into the back end and go into the settings and go into Fastbook, pricing tool, age settings. So if I'm working with a very aggressive store, maybe I need to be 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, and then really anything over 60 is just dead weight for those type of stores. Or let's do 60, maybe over 75. Oh, that's just going to automatically calculate it. And then consider stale price after X amount of days. So some stores want to know, like, hey, after 30 days, if I haven't changed the price, let me know. If it's after 15, let me know. So I'm going to change ours to 15 days. And then once I go back to the pricing tool now, notice that it did hold where I was last, but I can also set the default on the top here for what it needs to be. So if I'm always looking in used cars, I can go back into my settings, go into the Fastbook tool price settings, and adjust for what I usually always look at. That'll save a lot of headaches for you. Now you can see this one here. It's been 96 days since the last price change. I could click on it. If we had a record on it, it would display. It doesn't. So the next one shows, okay, December 17th. Here was the price before, here's it after, and then who changed the pricing on it. Also, I could just manually put a price. So if it's going to be $48,000, okay, come down here, hit save, boom, I'm happy. Everything looks good. Now we're all yellow. So then I can clear my filter, so I can just say, okay, reset the search parameters. I need to go back and I need to look at all my new cars, and I need to look at all versus my vehicle MSRP, and I'm simply looking at my internet price to see anything as I scroll down this list that we haven't changed the price on. Okay, oh, there's one I haven't changed the price on. You'll also see that this is indicating it's a slow mover. Well, what's happened there is the store's gone in and they've actually booked it in the comp view and taken a look at the new car. One thing to note, if you do go in and you start booking, looking at units, so let's just pull one here, Ram 1500 Laramie, and you go in to look at the comp view. So I'm looking at Laramie comp view now. I'm looking at 0 down, 265 up, and I get a whole bunch of different results. Yeah, I could come in here. Maybe I want to just say, okay, just show me what the lowest price is. So this particular store is showing that truck all the way at 38.6. I would have to drill into each individual unit to determine how are they pricing that. From what I'm noticing, the final pricing is what's being displayed within DealersLink. So one thing you won't see is an MSRP and then a final selling price. All you're going to see is that final selling price. So this particular unit would be our lowest price unit. I could go into the RAM. I could take a look and see how they're pricing it, making sure, do I have all those rebates? Do I have the right correct amount of discounts? And then if they've used any additional cash, it'll be on there. Wow, that's an ugly looking truck. So that's the best way. You can get into the minutia of all this data over here. They're saying the retail velocity on 95 days, 55 units in stock. Our current price to market is 111%, and get you some data. But this can get you in trouble a little bit because we don't have a base MSRP versus internet price, and truly the best way to do it would be to do just a market survey by checking out your other dealers, competing dealers on the next to you, and going and take a look there. I mean, it's a good place to start, and you would be able to look at that unit and say, wow, they're really down. I better go look and see what's going on with that particular unit. At that point, I'm just going to hit save. Now, the very slow mover of 95 days is computed by all the Ram 1500 in the market, 300 miles from me that we can see, and then divides it by the total days that they've been in stock. So I just don't feel like it's the most accurate judge of, and that's just a market person versus like looking at OEM information, opinion. I just don't. I would rather look at my OEM data and the turn rates that they're showing, because they're the ones building units. Their analytics as far as what to build next is predicated on what's selling. So that's, I wanted to keep this short, really quick. Overview of how to use the incentives tool a little bit better. Also, real quick, I'll point out that the incentives, you can come in here and they will be showing on the cash incentive line. So I could drill into this. I could see, you know, how they got to that cash incentive. And then the cash incentive also drops any disclaimer information into the description on the car. So that's really important to note. When you're selling new car tool, you're basically selling the idea that we can automate the incentives for the stores, and some website providers charge over $500 per OEM to populate that data. So if you ask some questions and you have them check on their website providers, you'll find they'll probably save a lot of money by going to DealersLink. So incentives is the big reason to be looking at the new car tool. Having that data export your final price with the rebate in it automated is very strong. HomeNet cannot do that. Um, Also, having the ability to come into the pricing tool, price from invoice amount up or down where you need to be, and then quickly batch price those as well. See price change on new car is really what the tool, the importance of the tool. It's not so much watching what the market data is doing. It's simply we make it easier because the rebates are automated, and simply that you can go in and batch price your units as necessary. So anyways, quick overview that was asked to do. So if you have any questions on how that all functions, just holler at me. Thank you.